Well, what the heck? It is Learn the Bible in a Year for January 23rd, 2026. And today we're reading through Genesis chapter 45, 46, and 47, verses 1 through 12. We're also reading Matthew chapter 16, but just verses 1 through 20. And we are also reading Psalms chapter 14. Let's jump into the recap today. Before I start going on the recap, just a reminder to hit the follow, subscribe, like buttons, all the good buttons. That really helps the ministry out, and I totally appreciate it. All right, let's jump into today's recap. Starting in Genesis chapter 45, Joseph cannot control himself any longer. He orders all of the Egyptian attendants to leave. No one can witness this particular moment. He weeps so loudly that the Egyptians outside hear him, and Pharaoh's household hears about it. Maybe we're going to learn something here shortly about that. But he says to his brothers, "I am Joseph. Is my father still living?" The brothers are still terrified and speechless. They're standing before a powerful Egyptian official they've been bowing to, and he's the brother that they sold into slavery 20 years ago. Joseph tells them to come closer. "I am your brother Joseph, the one you sold to Egypt. But don't be distressed or angry with yourselves for selling me here, because it was to save lives that God sent me ahead of you. The famine has lasted 2 years, with 5 more coming. So it wasn't you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh." Father to Pharaoh is actually a title meaning chief advisor in ancient Egypt, meaning he is the lord of his entire household and ruler of all of Egypt. He says, "Hurry back to my father and tell him God has made me Lord of Egypt. Come down to me. You will live in Goshen and be near me. You, your children, your flocks and herds, I'll provide for you there, because 5 years of famine remain." He throws his arms around Benjamin and Benjamin weeps too. Then he kisses all his brothers and weeps over them. After this, his brothers finally talk with him. When Pharaoh hears Joseph's brothers have come, he's pleased. He tells Joseph to have them load their animals and return to Canaan. "Bring your father and families back. I'll give you the best of Egypt. Take carts for your children and wives and bring your father." Joseph gives them carts, provisions for the journey, and new clothes for everyone. To Benjamin, he gives 300 shekels of silver and 5 sets of clothes. He sends his father 10 donkeys loaded with Egyptian goods and 10 female donkeys loaded with grain and bread. He tells his brothers, don't quarrel on the way. He knows they might start blaming each other for what had happened. They return to Jacob and tell him Joseph is still alive and the ruler of all Egypt. Jacob is stunned. His heart goes numb because he doesn't believe them. But when they tell him everything that Joseph said and sees the carts that Pharaoh sends, then he is convinced. "My son Joseph is still alive, and I will go see him before I die." And now Genesis chapter 46 and 47, verses 1 through 12. Israel sets out with everything he has. Remember, Israel and Jacob, same person, just his new name. When he reaches Beersheba, he offers sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. In ancient Israel, major life transitions were often marked with sacrifices at places where God had previously appeared. God speaks to Israel in a vision at night. "Jacob, Jacob, I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for I will make you into a great nation there. I will go down with you and will surely bring you back again." The text then lists here all of Jacob's descendants who went to Egypt. 66 people, not counting his sons' wives, with Joseph and his 2 sons born in Egypt. The total is 70. Jacob sends Judah ahead to get directions to Goshen. When Joseph sees his father, he has a chariot made ready and goes to meet him. As soon as he appears, Joseph throws his arms around him and weeps for a long time. Joseph's kind of a crier. I don't know if you picked that up in the text. Israel says to Joseph, "Now I am ready to die, since I've seen for myself that you are still alive." Joseph tells his brothers that he will inform Pharaoh that they have arrived. "When Pharaoh summons you and asks your occupation," he says, "tell them that you are shepherds." Now, this actually matters because shepherds are detestable to Egyptians. And this is probably because Egypt was primarily agricultural, and shepherds were seen as lower class. Sheep were also associated with Egyptian enemies. But this actually works in Joseph's favor because his family can now stay in Goshen and maintain their identity. Joseph takes 5 brothers to Pharaoh. They say that they're shepherds and ask to settle in Goshen. Pharaoh tells Joseph to settle them in the best part of Egypt, the district of Ramses, and put capable men in charge of their livestock. Joseph brings in Jacob and presents him to Pharaoh. Jacob blesses Pharaoh, who asks how old he is. Jacob says he is 130 years old. My years have been few and difficult. Then Jacob blesses Pharaoh again and leaves. Joseph settles his family in the best part of Egypt and provides them with food according to the number of their children. All right, now we are in Matthew chapter 16, verses 1 through 20. The Pharisees and Sadducees, 2 religious groups that usually oppose each other, come together to test Jesus. They ask him to show a sign from heaven. Jesus says you can interpret weather patterns by looking at the sky, but you can't interpret the signs of the time. A wicked generation looks for a sign, but none will be given except the sign of Jonah. Then he leaves them. The disciples cross the other side of the lake but forget to bring bread. Jesus warns them, be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. They discuss among themselves, meaning the disciples, and he thinks that they're talking about the fact that they forgot bread, silly disciples. And Jesus knows their thoughts here and asks why they are concerned about having no bread. Do you not remember the 5 loaves and the 5,000 and how many baskets you gathered at the end? Or the 7 loaves for the 4,000? How is it that you don't understand that I wasn't talking about physical bread? Be on your guard against the yeast of the Pharisees and Sadducees. Then they understand he's warning them against the teachings of the religious leaders. Yeast works invisibly through an entire batch of dough. He's saying false teaching spreads and corrupts everything that it touches. Then Jesus goes to Caesarea Philippi and asks his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? They reply that some say that you are John the Baptist. Others say Elijah, who's an Old Testament prophet. Still others say Jeremiah, another Old Testament prophet, or one of the other prophets. He asks, but who do you say that I am? Simon Peter answers, you are the Messiah, the Son of the living God. And then Jesus says, blessed are you, Simon, son of Jonah, for this wasn't revealed to you by flesh and blood, but by my Father in heaven. And I tell you that you are Peter, which means rock. And on this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades won't overcome it. I'll give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven, and whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. Then he orders his disciples not to tell anyone that he is the Messiah. Man, that must have felt good for Peter to get all those compliments from Jesus. I hope he doesn't slam him here in a couple of verses. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for you. All right, now we're on to Psalms chapter 14. The fool says in his heart that there is no God. They are corrupt. Their deeds are vile. There is no one who does good. The Lord looks down from heaven on all mankind to see if there is anyone who understands, anyone who seeks God. All have turned away. All have become corrupt. There is no one who does good, not even one. Do all these evildoers know nothing? They devour my people as though eating bread and never call on the Lord. But there they are, overwhelmed with dread, for God is present in the company of the righteous. You evildoers frustrate the plans of the poor, but the Lord is their refuge. Oh, that salvation for Israel would come out of Zion. When the Lord restores his people, let Jacob rejoice and Israel be glad. It's a Psalms about human corruption and the denial of God, but it ends with hope for restoration and celebration when God acts. Once again, this Psalms is following the same type of template that most of the Psalms do. God, where are you? Everything is terrible. Followed with, God is awesome and I love you. A little bit of a swing of emotions there. All right, we're going to jump into our questions for today. Before we do our questions, just a quick word from our lovely sponsor. And our sponsor is Covenant Security Equipment. Covenant Security Equipment is a Christian-owned company that partners with building contractors who build with safety in mind. They sell bullet-resistant windows, secure transaction systems, drive-through installations, and much, much more. If this is appealing to you because you are a builder, go to covenantsecurityequipment.com, or you can go to this website by clicking on the link in the show notes. And now on to the questions for today. If you haven't picked up a copy of the Learn the Bible in a Year workbook, the digital copy is for free. You can find the link to that in the show notes. You can also pick up a paperback copy, which I encourage you to do. The link to that is also in the show notes. And here are today's questions. From Genesis 45, 46, and 47, verses 1 through 12, Joseph reveals himself to his brothers and forgave them, saying, God sent me before you to preserve life. So here's the question. How might God be using your past pain or betrayal for a greater purpose that you can't see yet? Question number 2 from Matthew 16, Jesus asks, Who do you say that I am? This wasn't a theological quiz, it was a personal question. And here's the question to you. How would you answer based on your actual experience of Jesus, not just what you've been taught about him? Who do you say that Jesus is? Question number 3 from Psalms. It says, The fool says in his heart, there is no God. Here's the question to you. Where are you living as a practical atheist, believing God exists but making decisions as if he doesn't? Ooh, that's a deep, cutting question. And question number 4, which is the same question we have every single day. What is your main takeaway from today's reading? My main takeaway is just the awe-inspiring response of Peter. Peter is somebody that I really look up to as a character in the Bible because he's so, I guess, aggressive in the way that he holds himself. Sometimes he puts his foot right into his mouth, but sometimes he is bold. In this case, he was bold in saying that Jesus is, in fact, the Messiah, and that encourages me to be more bold in my own faith. All right, well, that is the episode for today, and I will see you all again here tomorrow.